real personal, it's never nothing personal. Blue strips, blue tips, and it's cheesy. Heard he hot, not the way that boy.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I thought I would do a work experience from Chipotle that I had, and basically, in a way, giving you a heads up of what job not to work at. Or at least maybe this is just my location, but so far I've heard shit from every Chipotle restaurant. Okay, I started working when I was 16 at this Chipotle. So, so annoying. So basically, the first negative thing about this Chipotle, or at least my location, is that they overworked you like a motherfucker. So I went in, right, and it was like chop bitch, like really fast paced, and you were expected to know how to do like anything kitchen related, right? So I signed up to be just regular crew member. Like I didn't know the positions or anything, so I just chose that. So literally my first day, I had to make 5 or 6 trays of chips. Now let me enlighten you on this. That took like a whole fucking hour. It was so hard, like so hard. It was so much work. So let me just explain something. Every Chipotle has a cooler in the back, obviously, where you store literally fucking everything. And let me just tell you, nothing is fresh there. Nothing is fucking fresh. Let me just say that. But anyway, I had to get the chips, like they were already cut up, like you just had to like fry them. So I had to go to the cooler, back and forth, fill a whole tray up, like pick up a box that was huge and really heavy for me, by the way. Take it back all the way to the front where the grill is, where like they're making the chicken and like all that. So it was already really cramped up space, and I was in the corner, bitch, in the corner. So then my manager at the time, she was a girl, she was like, okay, we're gonna do this, like she was like teaching me really fast, and she's like, did you get that? And I was like, yeah. Like I was like scared to like fuck up and say no or like something, and I wanted to prove to her that I could do it, and I was like, no, yeah, I totally got it, you know. I burnt like the first 5 patches. It's fine, whatever. So basically we did that. Well, I did that, and everyone else had their own job, and everyone's like working really fast. So that was good. Okay, so over time I got used to doing that. So my schedule was doing chips first, and then after chips I had to go to the floor where like the tables are, the soda machine, all that, and like clean it out, make sure everything was stocked. So like the sugars, the forks, the knives, make sure it was clean, napkins, like basically that whole section, clean all of the tables inside and outside within like 20 minutes, which is not enough considering the amount of tables it has, the dirt that you have to pick up every tray. Sometimes people leave the red trays outside. Like it was just a lot to do under a certain time, and so like by that time I had like a whole hour to do this. So it's like, do the chips, bag them. I didn't even mention that. Oh my god, I had to bag all the fucking chips, and we had to weigh the fucking bag. Like my manager was so annoying. Like technically it's supposed to be like the regular bowls, fill it up, 1 bag, and then half of that bowl thing again, fill it up, and that was supposed to be it. But no, she wanted her 7 fucking ounces of chips. Like it had to be perfect. Like if it was like 0.1, she'd like take out a chip, put it, like it was a mess, and then like put those up behind the cashier where it's like all lined up really nicely, and she was just very extra. Okay, so then after I did that, then I cleaned, and then you had to go on break before opening, and I forgot what time you open. 9, 10, I don't know. I think it was 10 when you open or something. So we had to do all that by then, and then our break was in the really like early in the morning, so we would get 1 meal, just 1, okay? So in the morning, nothing is ready at that time yet because it's not even opening yet, so it's like you're always stuck. I was always stuck with eating a quesadilla or like chips and guac, if there was guac by then. Like it was just like a whole ass mess. So that would happen, right? And then the rest of the day, either I was on cashier or serving food. Oh my god, bitch. Listen, bitch. I'm a really nice bitch. Like, I know I sound like I'm not because I cuss every 2 seconds, and like it seems like I have a really bad attitude. And if I say like one more time, I'm really gonna like shoot myself. But I'm really kind. Like, if it comes to work and stuff, like, I'm gonna be really, really nice because, you know, the customers, and I want to make myself look polite. Like, that's just how it is. I don't know. So, like, if I'm serving food or whatever, I'm like on the very end, so I'm making the tortillas if people need it. So I'm preparing the bowls. It's just more, I want to say it's a harder task in a way, besides wrapping burritos. It's just like you have to deal with more, and like people, the customers yelling at you, or like they'll be like, oh, you're being really stingy with the chicken, and I'm like, ma'am, I'm only allowed to serve 2 scoops. And it's just like, it's a process for everything. Like, you have to know how many scoops of each for everything. You can't serve more than 2 of that. I want to have of this, has to be an ounce of that. Like, I'm supposed to fucking know how much that is. It's just really, really stressful, right? So after a while of doing that, I decided I didn't want to do that, and my manager trained me on cashier. So I preferred that way more. So I'd like learn the cashier really, really easily. I feel like that's the easiest part from working at Chipotle. It's just, you kind of have to know about money, and like obviously the machine will tell you how much to give back and like stuff like that, but sometimes it'll like freeze on you and you're like, ugh. And like the customer will give you like dimes and quarters that don't match up to like the amount. It's just like a complicated ass situation. But overall, I hated my experience at Chipotle because it was really unorganized. Like, our manager was very strict on us, but it was unorganized in the sense that later on in the day we would run out of food and like guac. Listen, bitch, everyone goes crazy for guac. Like, guac is the holy grail of Chipotle, you know. Obviously it's fucking delicious, but our manager didn't know how to give us amount. So like, okay, let me explain something. When you walk into the back room, everyone's names is on this wall, and it tells you how much of something you have to make. So for example, me, if I had to make 6 tubs, like huge tubs of chips, it would say there 6 tubs of that. If someone's in charge of guac, okay, you're gonna make this, like, you know, it has everyone's instructions. So we were good for the first half of the day, if that. But when it comes to peak, which means like that's when everyone starts coming, which is like 12 to 3 basically, we're running out of everything. Salsas, guac, like chips, just everything, literally everything. And so then that's what holds up the line, and if we run out of meat, it's even worse, because, you know, that's like the base of the bowl, you know, or burrito or taco or whatever it is. So besides that, we also had pretty much all and only teenage workers, 16 to ages like 20 basically. Like, that is it, which is fine if you want to work. And like, that's not saying that I loved my work, because I hated it, but I always like, I was like a hustler, you know, like I just kept moving, like doing everything on time, like really, really fast. I made sure everything was perfect. I would like clean things that I wasn't even asked to do. Like, I would mop if that, or sweep the floor, like, you know, like little things, because either way it's my workspace and I want it clean, you know. However, that's not the case for all the other workers. So it's another tip: if you're gonna work at Chipotle, make sure you look at the workers. If they're slow, then you're fucked. Because I was working with like 2 or 3 boys who were very, 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 very slow. Like, you ask for chicken, they're gonna be like that, like really, really slow. And like, if they're gonna sweep the floor, very slow, and accidentally drop the trash on the floor, it's just like a whole mess, right? I basically just worked with hella amateurs who just like fucked around, didn't like the job, and like demonstrated, like it was obvious in their work that they hated it. So moving on to my manager being fired I forgot for what. I forgot. I don't know. She got fired. We got a new manager. She was the most unorganized one of them all. She got fired. They left. And like the thing about my job is that everyone kind of knew each other. So like the manager and one of the employees moved in together after a while. It was just weird. And like I don't even want to get into it. It's like personal for them, so I'm not gonna explain the story, but like, you know, that happened. And then bitch, here is the juicy part. Here it is. Okay, let me explain something. I came into Chipotle earning $11 an hour, and I live in San Jose, which minimum wage here is like $14. But the location that my Chipotle was at is another small city close to it. And at that time, minimum wage was supposed to be $13.50, I believe. And we didn't get that. Me and my friend were working there and we just weren't getting paid that. And we were dumb bitches for not saying anything to begin with. But we worked there, $11 an hour, okay? 8-hour shift, full time. Like we were working full time the whole summer. Like it was so stressful. Like I was working pretty much like every day. So then came a new manager. He was a guy. He had been a manager for The Habit, if you don't know what that is, like a hamburger restaurant, fast food place as well. So he came into Chipotle, never managed a Chipotle before, doesn't know shit about Chipotle, like nothing, you know, he's just there and like whatever. And like he was nice, he was cool, except he was very slow and he didn't know measurements for things as well. So for example, in the morning, he would be like, okay, Kim, do 3 trays of chips. And I was like, oh, 3? Like just 3? You know, usually I do 5, 6. And I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, we need more, we'll do later in the day. Like make more later in the day. And I was like, okay, like if you say so. I thought he had a whole ass plan, you know, so I'm like, alright, that's fine by me, you know. I do only the 3 trays, blah, 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 like everything's good, opening, whatever. When it comes to peak, we're all out of chips, and then I'm like, we need chips, and he's like, can you go make some? And I'm like, no, I'm on cashier, and like this other bitch is on the line. The line is called, like when you serve food, that's what we call it, line. And I was like, she's online, and online there's supposed to be at least 2, but recommended 3, so that way there's one person serving like the bowl, like the chicken, the rice, like that. And then another person on salsa and basically another person in the middle so they can help fold burritos and like all that. That wasn't happening. So it was my friend online, me on cashier, dealing with the angry customers while he was chilling in the back. So he would be stressing out making the chips at that point and like bagging them, and everyone's crowding each other and like the grill, and like it was a mess, right? So then this manager was getting very friendly with me, I would say, with a lot of my coworkers at the time, actually. So once July came around, I told him I was going to quit. And he was like, what? Like, why? Like, no, we love you so much. You're such a good worker. Like, blah, 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 you know. Just gassing me up, to be honest. And I was like, well, because I've mentioned so many times to the other managers that my pay isn't even like legal, like I should be getting paid $13.50, you know. He's like, no, don't leave, like I'll even raise it to 14, like you're just so good, you know, like I'll talk to the higher up, whatever. And we did have a higher up and he was just like a fucking dickhead, but I'm not even gonna get into that. And basically I was like, okay, fine, like whatever. I stayed at the job. And then, like, every morning, he would be like, hey, Kim, hey, Kimberly, you know, like, very, like, I don't know how to say, it was very flirty. Like, the way he just looked at me was, ugh, I just can't even explain it. But he was just friendly with all of us, and, like, he'd even talk, to our other teenage coworkers, like, hey, have you done, like, crack before? Like, just random drug stories he would tell them, right? And he tried to act like a teenager, but he was like fucking 36, okay? it was just a whole story. And then there was a point where he introduced me to his wife once. So I was coming, not home, I went to work once after school, and so before, I was early to work, so I stayed in the, like, by the seats, and I just sat down, and I see him kind of coming towards my way, and his wife was like right behind me, and he had a son, a cute ass baby, okay? And I was just like, oh my god, your son is so cute. Like, I was just like, you know, like playing with him, whatever. He was like, I know, right? Like, yeah, Kimberly, come outside, let me introduce you to my wife. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, okay. She's like, oh, this is my wife, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hi, nice to meet you. And I was like, okay, I have to go clock in now. Like, it was just awkward. Like, for what did he introduce me, you know? I was like, whatever. You know, whatever. I worked, whatever. So then, the next day, I go, I sit again because I'm early. And then he had his baby. Like, he comes out of the fucking kitchen with his baby in his hands. He's like, hey, Kim, you can clock in, but do you mind if you take care of my son? What? I was like, huh? He was like, yeah, like, I know it's your shift, but, like, I'll just count it as if you're, like, working. But do you think you can, like, sit with my son until my wife comes and, like, picks him up? And I was like, sure, or, like, alright. Like, I spent, like, 30 minutes with the son. Just, like, okay, that was awkward. Whatever, I go on about doing my job later once I go back in. And then things started getting really awkward towards the end, like when I was really about to quit. The whole Chipotle was just going to shit. Like, we were only hiring lazy ass teenagers who didn't want to do anything. It was just a fucking mess. It was so unorganized. Like, everyone just, like, was in a really bad mood all the time because of the unorganized situations. So there was this one day, so awkward talking about it. There's a one day where I was in line serving food. So someone was serving bowls. I was in the middle, so where I would wrap burritos. He was next to me helping wrap burritos, and then cashier and, like, everything else. And it was really, really, really chaotic this day. Like, we were running out of fucking everything. Like, all the salsas, chicken, like, everything we were running out of. So, I'm wrapping a burrito, right? And he goes behind me to, like, go, like, get foil to put, like, the burrito, the tortilla on. But, like, he, like, I'm gonna explain it. He puts his hand, like, you know when you say excuse me and, like, you usually tap the shoulder or, like, right here and, like, move them. No, not him. He literally went, like, excuse me, like, you know what I mean. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, maybe there wasn't space. Like, maybe the trash can was right behind me, because we had a trash can behind, and I was like, maybe he had to squeeze through, like, whatever. I was, like, too busy to, like, stop and, like, fight him, you know? I'm just, like, wrapping this burrito, like, next. And then, like, once the line stopped, then I turned back and I'm like, wow, like, the trash can wasn't even there. He had a fuck ton of space to pass and not touch me at all. Like, there was space for him, okay, bitch? And I was like, oh, hell no. Like, that's just ugly. But I was like, in my head, I'm a dumb bitch. I was like, no, maybe, like, he didn't see, or, like, he was dizzy. Like, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. The next time that something similar happened, it was like, these are all night shifts at this point. Like, I was only working night shifts, so I wouldn't go home till, like, 10 or 11. Which is also illegal, by the way. I couldn't stay longer than 9 or 10, but, like, he would keep me in until longer, but whatever, that's different. There's another incident where, again, he would, like, grab me, touch me, like, his fucking dick was on my, like, butt, basically, like, when he, like, tried to, you know, like, excuse me again, like, that type of shit. And it came to a point where I was like, okay, this, like, it's on purpose now. Like, now it's purposeful. And I was like, oh, hell no, like, I'm not doing this shit. So I then asked to work less days, and I blamed the excuse on, like, school and, like, me being on school. Like, I couldn't handle that much anymore. And he'd be like, no, yeah, completely, like, I understand, like, whatever. And he would still make me work, like, every fucking day. And I was like, oh my god, it was just so annoying. And then, bitch, this is the last story. I'm almost done. We had a new worker. She was a girl. She was like 19, I want to say. She was going to community college, I believe. She was very, she had a strong attitude. She was a bitch. Nobody liked her. She was lazy, and if you told her to do something, she would be like, ugh. Like, if I'm serving bowls and I ran out, I'm like, hey, can you go get me bowls in the back? And she wasn't doing anything. Like, she was just on cashier, like, waiting, you know, for my customer to get there, but obviously it wasn't there yet. She was like, oh my god. And she would take, like, freaking hours to get one thing that anyone would tell her. So basically, then came the rumor, which was crazy. So my manager, we're gonna call him Jake. That's not his name, by the way, but that's what we're gonna call him. Had told one of the assistant managers who he was close with that he and this girl that had attitude, the little mean bitch that no one liked and complained about, we're gonna call her Felicia. I guess they both got a hotel room and, like, you know, like, they did the nasties. And we were like, what the fuck? Like, he was telling them, or him, like, everything in detail. And we were like, wait, what? Like, you know, it was crazy. So then the assistant manager was close to us. So when Jake wasn't there, he would come to us and be like, guys, guess what? Like, I'm gonna tell you this. He tells us and we're in shock. And I guess he had told the assistant manager that he was single, like, he didn't have a family, nothing. And I was like, that's a lie. I just met the wife like a couple weeks ago and the son, and everyone was like, no way, there's no, like, that's not true, like, you know, whatever. And I was like, no, that's literally true. And I was like, are you sure something's going on? And we were like, I don't know, you know, whatever. So then, like, when I was working more shifts, I noticed that he was being really nice to her. Even when she was being lazy, holding up the line, being rude to clients, he was really, like, close with her and, like, touchy as well. Like, basically how he was with me, he was doing with her. And this bitch got a raise when I was working there for way more longer than she was. Like, she had barely gone in there within, like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, and, like, she already got a raise. And I was like, okay. Like, it was just weird. And over time at work, she started laughing more, like, being happier. And that's when we were like, yeah, this bitch is getting dick down, because what the fuck. So yeah, that's basically it. That's the end of my story time. I really would not recommend working at Chipotle, to be honest. I was the worst shit of my life. I just hated it. It's very unorganized. If it's organized, then, like, okay, work on it. But make sure when you go to the store, you see that the people are organized, that they're fast-paced, and you'll be fine. But as for my case, both my first and the last manager were fucking crackheads, basically. Literally, my first manager, I don't know if I mentioned this, she would talk about her high school experience doing crack, acid, going to raves, doing all this crazy shit. This last guy was a fucking pervert. Everything was just a mess. I literally got harassed. Like, why? That's just wrapping around my head. Like, I fucking got... He touched my ass. Like, what did I not see bad about that in the beginning? Like, I should have said something. But I'm a pussy bitch, so I didn't. And yeah, that's my story time. I know nobody asked for this. Nobody might care, but you know what? You got it anyway. And if you stay to the end, thank you. I just appreciate you very much. Thank you for tuning in, and let me know. Fuck, I know you're fucking watching this. Let me know video ideas, bitch. It's so hard to come up with this shit. Like, I know YouTube was gonna be hard, but I don't think it was gonna be this hard. Like, I can't think of shit for ideas. That is it. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, comment, share, subscribe, and yeah, bye guys.